After the DI and the test of this, so you have 2 assignments on this, that's 2 assessments on this, you have to remember for the end of the year. The advantage with this topic is it's pretty much graphics calculator. There's an app called TVM Solver, which I'll show you next lesson, and at year 12 you're expected to just hammer that. Now, I always like to start this topic by explaining interest, the idea of interest. In the real world, other than your family or friends, you're unlikely to be able to borrow money from someone, then just pay them back what you borrowed later. Why? Because in that arrangement, only you are advantaged by that. Because you got access to money you didn't have. And if you're borrowing that money, do they have access to that money while you're borrowing it? No, they gave it to you, so they can't use that money. So the only person advantaged by that is you. And in the real world, people like to be advantaged themselves. So in reality, lenders, which are banks or people with a lot of money, are going to loan money to borrowers, people like you, who need money. And on top of that, they charge them a fee on top of the money that you borrowed. So this is where the terminology is. That's why it's in blue. The money that's borrowed or loaned is called the principal. The fee charged by the lender to the borrower is called interest. So you can think of interest as the money that you're charged to use someone else's money that you didn't have. And then at the end of the arrangements, the borrower pays back the total amount, which means they have to pay back the principal, the amount they borrowed, plus the interest fee on top. Can you please get those terms in capitals, because they're important for our discussion. All right, moving on. Simple interest is the most basic method of calculating the interest fee you charge on a principal. It's also known as flat rate interest, so please keep an eye out for that terminology. I may or may not use flat rate interest. So please keep an eye out for that terminology in your questions. If it says flat rate, don't freak out. We're talking about simple interest there. So the interest is a specific interest rate percentage of the original principal for each year of the arrangement. So you have the simple interest formula. This should go on your cheat sheet if you don't remember it. The simple interest fee, SI, is equal to the principal times by the rate as a decimal. From shares, how did you convert a percentage to a decimal? Did you divide by what?
100.
You divide by 100 to get the rate to a decimal, and then you multiply it by the time in years. Please, a few moments to get SI is equal to PRT and explain to yourself what each of those letters means. If you do have the formula, you might as well get the first example down while you're waiting. So that stuff in black under the formula is just to make you aware that simple interest formula is set up to find the simple interest. But in these examples and in your questions, the exercises, you're expected to use algebra to rearrange it to find P, R, and T as well. Just keep in mind, what is the opposite of timesing? Dividing. So if you want to rearrange and get any of those, you divide by what you need, okay? All right, let me show you how to do questions like that. Calculate the simple interest paid on an $8,000 investment. Let's highlight the important stuff. It's important that you know we're talking about simple interest, so use the right formula. It's important that you know you're investing $8,000. It says flat rate here, so simple interest confirmed again, 7%, 18 months. So the simple interest is equal to the amount invested, $8,000, times by the rate. What's 7% as a decimal?
0.07.
Good, 0.07 times by. Now this is, maybe you'll think that I'm trying to trick you, but I'm not. 18 months. Is that in years?
No,
But how many years is 18 months?
1.5.
Good, it's 1.5, because there's 12 months and 6, so 1.5. So you'd go 1.5. So calculator 8,000 times by 0.07 times by 1.5. So you'd be charged $840 of simple interest on that investment. Move down. $2,700 is invested at 5% per annum, simple interest. Find the total value of the investment after 8 years. So this is maybe could be considered a trick question, but it's not, because I told you that the total value is what you pay back at the end, which is the interest and the principal that you borrowed in the first place. So to find this, I need to find out what the interest is first. So P is the 2,700. Sorry, I should highlight, be consistent. 2,700 invested 5%, simple interest after 8 years. 2,700 times by 0.05 times by 8. 2,700 times by 0.05 times by 8. So over those 8 years, you're going to have 1,080 interest. But what's the total value of the investment going to be? The investment was $2,700 and you made 1,080. So the total value is going to be the 2,700 principal plus the 1,080 plus 2,700, 3,780. That's the total value. I'll give you a minute or so to get those 2 examples down. And 2 more after that. If you do have that, you've got example 3 there. Let's do example 3. Well, you want to earn 6,000 interest. So it's not asking for the interest this time. You're told the interest. You're told how long you're investing for, and you're told how much you're investing. It's asking you what flat rate. So you're finding R. I haven't given you a formula that finds R. I've given you a formula that finds SI. So use that. What's the SI? What's the interest? 6,000 equals, the principal was 18,000 times by, I don't know what the rate is. That's what it's asking me to find. Times by T. How many years was it for? 4. If I've had you in previous years, I would have told you the order of multiplication does not matter. I could put the 4 times by 18,000 next to each other. So let's do that. 6,000 equals 18,000 times by 4 times by R. I haven't changed the question. 18,000 times by 4. Nothing's stopping me working that out. That's 72,000. So 6 grand equals 72,000 times by R. Now we use our algebra skills because I want to find what R is. What is 72,000 doing to R? What's the sign between? Multiplying. So what's the opposite of multiplying by 72,000? good. So divide that by 72,000, but what must I do on the other side? Also divide by 72,000. 72,000 is going to cancel. So R is going to be whatever 6,000 divided by 72,000 is, which is 0.083, 0.083, rounded to 3 decimal points. That's not the answer yet, because that's not a rate, that's a decimal. What would that be as a percentage? So 8.3% per annum. I'll scroll down so you can see the last example, and then I'll shut my mouth. How long would it take to earn 4760 interest? So we're looking for T this time. I invested 16,000 and the rate is 8.5% per annum. Simple interest. So SI is 4760. The principal is 16,000. The rate is 8.5 is a decimal, 0.085 times by T, which I don't know. T is the time in years. Nothing stopping me working out what 16,000 times by 0.085 is. 16,000 times by 0.085, 1360 times T. Opposite of timesing something by 1360. 1360, do that on both sides. That cancels. So T is 4760 divided by 1360, 3.5. 3.5 years. Get those examples down, please. Your homework, and now EX7A, I believe, is simple interest.